Hello and welcome to the Epic Love Radio Show. My name is Travis Suit and I have the lovely Blair McKnight
Hello.
here with me, and also off camera in studio, the one and only Dee.
Hello.
Hi,
Yeah,
Dee.
so here we are, episode 43 of the Epic Love Radio Show. We want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you to everybody out there who has been leaving great reviews online and on Facebook. Thank you for all the follows on Facebook and on Instagram. We love all the epic love we're getting. And thank you to all the suggestions for the amazing guests that we have lined up for weeks and weeks to come.
Yep, exactly. Yes, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
And we're counting down towards our 50th episode
Wow.
coming up in really like 7 weeks.
Yeah. What are we going to do? We'll be in the new studio.
Yeah, we'll be doing something
So, yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome.
Yep.
Looking forward to it. And the Epic Love Radio Show is brought to you by the Piper's Angels Foundation, whose mission is to support and enhance lives and empower the lives of families in the cystic fibrosis community. That is the purpose of this show, is to amplify the message of that love and compassion beyond the boundaries of our own mission and cause, and to invite in others to support and learn and educate about cystic fibrosis and allow them to share their inspiring stories of love through action, so we can better understand what else is going on out there in the world that we can all get aligned with and support in innumerable ways. We have some awesome sponsors who support the show and also support the Crossing for a Cure, which so far this year coming on board, we have Dixie Vodka, Tao of Stoke, Secor, based out of Fort Lauderdale, Secor Shipping Lines. They help with the logistics for the Crossing for a Cure. Integrity Square, based out of New York, with Halo Talks, their podcast. Health Career Institute, based here in Palm Beach County. ABC Financial, and Flying Fish Paddleboards.
Wow. What a lineup.
Yeah, right. And it's getting bigger and growing every week. So thank you to all the 2019 sponsors recommitting or coming on board this year. We're super excited for all the momentum, the crazy abundant flow of momentum we have pumping through like a freight train right now at the Crossing for a Cure and Piper's Angels.
Keeping everybody busy.
To say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is good. We
Yeah.
love it.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. It really is. It's a really interesting mix because we've got this crazy energy and enthusiasm of people who are committing to paddling and training, and it's like super inspirational. And then on the other side of things, we're getting bombarded with urgent financial requests for assistance for families that are really struggling and facing some very dynamic challenges. And it's a really interesting, balance of scales to manage day to day with the organization. And it's one thing we're learning as we grow as an organization is, how to not only produce a world-class event on one hand that fundraises to support the organization and our programs, but how to establish sustainability for programs that are serving the cystic fibrosis community in really some very innovative ways.
So when people are reaching out to you and you're getting busier and busier with helping these people with CF, does that fuel your fire for the
Absolutely.
event?
Yeah. It's hard to sometimes convey it, because obviously people who magnetize towards the event they're so excited and about the challenge, and we have a lot of very positive kind of cultural narrative around the event.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the seeing both kind of the dark side and the light side of CF is, it's something you got to learn to process. And I think that's what a lot of these CF parents face and struggle with is that processing and coping, and it takes time, and it takes a myriad of ways of approaching how you do heal and cope with it. And I think our guest today, Julie Best, who is a CF mom and a very inspirational one at that, is a great example of how to take a challenge that you're facing, how to take a diagnosis that could be very heartbreaking, and to convert that suffering into success and transform, something that is considered a not a positive thing to have to deal with into something that can be a platform for positivity. And I think that's really amazing. We had a mom reach out today who's, one of the drugs that kids with CF take, people with CF who, to help open up their airway passages and everything, they use albuterol, and she's allergic to it. And so she's really struggling, and she's having, recurring lung infections because she can't do what she needs to do with the typical standard therapies. And so the mom is trying to figure out how, with this young girl, this child with CF, how do we figure out a different way to get the salt therapy and the sodium chloride into her lungs. And so, this was just contact we made today. I set up a call with her on Friday, and there are other ways, but that's a hard challenge to face. That's the first time I've actually met someone directly who was allergic to albuterol, right? That that really can be preventative in being able to open up the airways to absorb the necessary drugs and respiratory therapies to provide better airway clearance. So that's like a major hurdle.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's things like that, that we're getting to really just scrape the surface of, and figuring out that, we're just over 2 years into Piper's Angels Foundation, but realizing how truly necessary it is for families going through something to rally around each other and find and fight for innovative ways to better help each other and serve each other and create an empowering platform for that community, because we're not talking about a lot of people. 30,000 people in the US with cystic fibrosis, that's not a huge population for that disease set.
Right.
So solving those problems, finding solutions, really should be something very tangible that we can do. And I think that that's what we're experiencing, is that tangibility of, like, we can grab a hold of this, we can do something about it.
Wow. Yep. Well, that has to be just absolutely, I don't know, like heart-wrenching to go through all these different challenges every day. So I give you all the credit in the world, Travis, by the way.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Well,
No
it's,
problem.
the credit, it goes to this incredible army of angels out there, which some of you are tuning in right now. BP and Nikki and Gunther. Who else? We got Adams tuned in, Paul. Thank you guys all for being a part of the show and hanging in there with us. We have an incredible story coming up with Julie, so stick around. A couple updates with the crossing specifically. So as of today, we have 122 registered paddlers, with the openings for the teams, so the unregistered teammates, with another 38, and including myself and Liz, that's 162 paddlers. I feel like we need
staring at each
we need
other
one of those
in
those
disbelief.
big sound bites. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Boom! Whoa!
Explosion.
Wow, 100. That means we're only 38 away from our goal of 200 paddlers this year.
Now, is that a goal or a cap off?
That's just a goal.
Okay.
So the cap is actually with the recreational solo paddlers.
Okay.
So for that group, we're capping it at 60, because that we have to provide boat support for that group. For competitive paddlers and relay teams, it's wide open. I mean, it'll be as essentially what will determine the limitation on the capacity of the event participation is Bimini. How many rooms, how many boat slips, so what's cool about that is in future years, even this year, think about this. There's going to be probably 300 to 400 people in Bimini related to the event. If you have 200 paddlers and you have 50 boats and captains and crew, like everywhere you turn is going to be somebody in the crossing.
Yep.
That whole little island.
We're going to take over the
Yeah.
island. I keep thinking about this. Everybody, obviously the first question whenever I tell someone that I'm paddling across the ocean, they're like, well, aren't there sharks? And I'm like, well, yeah, duh, is my first thought.
It is the ocean.
Second thought is these sharks need to look out for us. Like, we're 200 people deep, like,
like that.
50 support boats, like, look out for us.
Look out,
through.
sharks.
Yeah, exactly.
Fins up,
Yeah.
as Jimmy Buffett would say.
Yeah.
Jaws has nothing on you guys.
Yeah, that's right.
I agree.
Dun,
I agree.
dun.
No one can
Dun, dun.
match
Yeah.
our passion and, the intent we're going to be crossing the ocean with.
Yeah.
Not even the sharks.
Well, and the sharks love that. Some love too. They need to be, sharks need love
They're going
too.
lovey-dovey route. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Epic love.
yeah.
Humans are humans, not food.
We don't really taste that good. I'm just saying. Like, that's why cannibalism isn't a bigger thing. I mean, if we really tasted great, like we tasted as good as people think cows taste. I mean, not that I necessarily eat cow meat, but if we did, I'm just saying it would be a whole different story going on in this
There'd
planet.
be a lot more lectures in this world.
Yeah, we wouldn't have 7 billion people on the planet. It'd be like, just a few.
You have no idea how good we taste to a shark. You have no clue.
That's true. Blood is blood, right?
Yeah.
That's true. I don't know. Well, and moving on off of sharks and blood in the water.
Yeah.
But no, that is really cool. We're going to really
Yeah.
truly be taking over the island. I can't wait to see everybody wearing their shirts and just super excited, and the energy of we're about to paddle across the ocean together. It's just going to make that island just be vibrating with awesomeness.
Yeah.
It's going to be so cool.
Yeah. You've got a rare opportunity with this thing too, and getting it started to be able to watch this grow from 4 people to now 200 people we're going to have in Bimini.
Yeah.
It's gotta be.
Yeah,
insane.
it's in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
Which is why our upcoming storytelling night and kickoff party this Saturday
Mhm.
is so important, to the community of paddlers we have here and local, to hear the memorable moments and inspiring stories from the crossing, because every year people have such a different perspective. Because, for example, Julie Best, our guest tonight, is signed up for the crossing. What she sees and what she feels as a part of this, being a CF mom, being an athlete, the boat, the crew, the paddlers she's with, they're all going to be, it's all its own, unique storyline within the greater storyline.
Mhm.
And, sometimes we've had people see submarines, we've had people see tiger sharks, we've had, rainbows, beautiful rainbows, and kind of the majesty of nature, water spouts, it's the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, we're all doing the same thing, but the experience is different for each individual.
Yeah, and
It's
what
crazy.
you face, the mental component of
Mhm.
how well did you prepare? Who is paying attention? Who's watching you on that satellite tracker as you come across online? Who's
Mhm.
going to be waiting for you on the beach? Who are you fighting alongside with in the water out there to get through paddling 80 miles
Mhm.
across the ocean? The grit and the grace of it, it's really interesting to see it all unfold.
Okay, so what time? It's this Saturday. What time does this storytelling event start, and where is it at?
It's 6 to 9 p.m. at the
Okay.
Florida Surfing Museum.
Okay.
And the Facebook page is up for the event with all the details. There will be food and beverages for purchase. It's a family-friendly event that is open to the public, free admission. Please bring your own beach chairs or cushions or bean bags,
Something to sit
to sit on, because there's limited seating of about 35 seats, and we're gonna have about 100 people. So I would definitely bring something to sit on, and it'll just be a really fun night with so much good energy and good people. We have our 6th committee meeting coming up tomorrow, which we're actually doing the committee meeting at that venue. So at the Florida Surfing Museum. And the reason for that is because for all the committee members who are paying attention and watching out there, we're going to go there and be able to have all the committee members who are inviting their own friends, because this is a new venue, so people haven't seen it. So figuring out where to park, how to get there. You know, then they can communicate that with all their friends. We can do a dry run through of what we're doing for the evening for setup for volunteers, and we'll still have our meeting at a cool place.
Good idea.
Yeah, so
All right.
excited about that.
Cool. And we have a survey going on our Facebook page, and it is from Paddle Fest that we attended this past weekend. And it is to vote for the non-for-profit that will be receiving $500 from Paddle Fest. And we would appreciate it if you went on the Epic Love Radio Show page and voted for Crossing for a Cure. We know all the angels are out there voting because we've seen the texts, and we so appreciate
Yeah.
it.
We got thousands of votes.
I
It's
know.
amazing. Keep voting.
Yeah, so you can vote multiple times. Please get on there and vote for us, and we appreciate it so we can continue to help these families with cystic fibrosis.
Yeah, and thank you to the Marine Industry Associations for putting on Paddle Fest, which is an awesome event. Just love it. The kids, the families, the whole vibe out there is fantastic. It's growing every year. It's at Jupiter at Harborside Place, which is a beautiful venue on the water. And, thanks for putting on this little contest to engage the community and rally people around. It's the rally factor.
It's the rally factor.
It's the rally factor. You gotta do it.
Yeah.
So cool. If anybody is watching on Facebook or listening live and you have any questions, please drop the questions in the comment box on Facebook. We'd love your feedback.
And we should mention really quick that this beautiful green screen behind us is not permanent. We will have our banner back. We are working on a new studio currently, and that's where the banner lies.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
bear with us
Yes.
while we're in front of the green.
Yeah, that was a nice way of saying Travis forgot to bring the banner.
I was trying to be nice and not blame you
Yeah.
for forgetting the
Well,
banner, but
We thought it was going to be at the other studio, and then it got
new
you know,
studio. See,
yeah.
like I said.
but what we're going to do is we're going to recap the video, maybe, put some like ocean and dolphins behind us here. That's
We're
gonna,
not going to do that.
I'm very
all
happy
right.
that the new studio took it away.
Yeah.
So I got you guys for a couple more weeks.
Yeah.
She's excited to have us. She doesn't want to lose us.
So,
Dee's going to come hang out at the show.
Exactly. I agree.
She's
Totally.
going to come hang
She's
out.
got the VIP invite. Oh,
That's
yeah.
it.
always
See?
gotta love the VIP.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. And one other thing we need to mention that we're going to be attending in the near future here is the Mind Body Expo on March 23rd. That's at Old School Square in Delray. One word, Delray. And that's going to be featuring vegan food, phenomenal speakers, fitness demos, and vendors.
Nice.
Travis and I will be there in the Epic Love tent, having some fun, saying hello, giving out free hugs. So come
I
say hi.
think your guest is coming on.
Oh, well, she's going to have to wait just a second.
Uh-oh, there she is.
Is that her?
Yeah, do you want me to answer it? Or
Yeah.
have
Go ahead and
Yeah.
answer. Yeah.
Bring her on in.
Oh, we just lost her.
Oh.
When she comes back, I'll bring her on.
Okay.
Julie, don't worry. We got you.
We're ready for you, Julie.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
So yeah, come out and visit us at the Mind Body Expo. We're really excited. That's going to be a super fun event.
Yes.
And come get your health and wellness on.
Yeah, get it on. And and then social media. Please get on our Epic Love Radio Show Facebook page. Give us a review, a thumbs up. Follow our Instagram page. Show us some love. We really appreciate it.
Sounds good.
We got Julie.
No, but
Julie.
I'll call her.
Julie is the best. Because her name's Julie.
Because her
Best.
name's Julie Best.
I'm
That
sure
was
she got that one.
genius.
I come up with some clever stuff here or there, you know.
Yeah, real original.
Hi,
This is Lee Best with Airbound Gymnastics. Please leave a message and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
Oh,
Hey, that was a good plug for.
we got a
that was-
voicemail.
That was a good plug for Airbound
That
Gymnastics.
was, I
with
couldn't tell
Julie.
if it was a voicemail or not. It just said it answered something. So that was
We
not
should-
that.
We should have left the voicemail.
Julie, call us back.
Yeah.
Come back to
Radio
us.
Show.
For sure. Well, oh man, what a download! I feel like the last from like week to week, it's just pumping, and it's
That
so
energy.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's really heavy, but uplifting at the same time.
Right.
It's fuel for the fire, that's for sure. So let's see, who do we have tuning? We have David Allen.
All right,
your
now we're good. Okay, well, I guess she really doesn't want to come on. She keeps hanging up.
Oh man.
Technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen. Tom Horton, ladies and gentlemen, a CF uncle and Crossing Crusader. Going on 2-time Crossing Crusader just joined. David said, oh, the studio looks sad. No, it doesn't. It just looks green. It's because
I
It's a
agree,
lucky
Dad. I
show.
think it looks really sad.
oh geez.
All right, now we're gonna do it.
Julie is my daughter. She
Okay,
lives in
now we
Chester.
got Julie.
Julie.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. How are you guys?
Wonderful. Welcome to the Epic Love Radio Show, where we're going to share your inspiring story of love through action. How about that?
That sounds fantastic.
Because you are quite inspiring.
I'm sorry, you just cut out. Say that again.
I said you are quite inspiring.
Oh, I am?
Yes, you are.
I'm just a normal
Definitely.
human.
That is true, but you know, normal humans can do extraordinary things.
That's true. That's very true.
Julie, so why don't you start out by, first of all, thank you for being our guest this evening. We so appreciate you being taking the time to be with us. And also, why don't you just start out by telling us a little bit about yourself and your connection with cystic fibrosis?
Okay. I am 40 years old. I've been married for 19 years, and I have 3 children. My oldest, I had a really hard time getting pregnant, first of all. It took us about 10 years to be able to have her, and we have all of my kids actually through IVF. So when she was born, she all of a sudden started coughing up what they said was meconium. And so we didn't know any better. We were new parents. We were just super excited to have a kid after trying for 10 years. And so they kept on going overnight. She just throw up just everything every time we fed her. And so my mom actually came into the hospital the next day, and she's like, "Why are you guys all in new clothes?" And I said, "Well, because she kept throwing up like every 15 minutes at night." And so she's like, "Something's wrong." So she actually went and got the nurse, and she's like, "You need to call somebody because something's wrong with this baby." And so they went and took my oldest to do x-rays, and they came back in and they said, "Hey, we sent your x-rays to a hospital called Primary Children's, and they said they just sent Lifeline for your daughter." So that was a big devastating blow, but we didn't know at this point that she has cystic fibrosis.
What's her name?
Sorry, go ahead.
What's her name?
Her name is Jadesy.
Okay, great.
So Jadesy was life-flighted, and we went down there, and they said, "You know what? Sometimes this happens." She had this thing called meconium ileus, where her bowel was actually blocked, and they said sometimes it happens if they have cystic fibrosis. Well, my husband and I both have very large families, and we were like, we've never even heard about. There's no way this child has cystic fibrosis. We weren't even worried. Well, come to find out, 2 weeks later, she had massive bowel surgery, I think like the day after she was born. But 2 weeks later, when she was in the hospital still, they came back and they said that her test was positive for cystic fibrosis. And so it was a pretty life-changing event to have not only been trying to have a child in the first place for so long, but to all of a sudden be making life-threatening decisions for a child. So she ended up spending 3 months in the NICU and going through massive bowel, basically like reconstruction, trying to get everything working properly and stuff until she was able to come home with us. And it just kind of rocked her world, changed everything.
Yeah, I bet it did. So before you had Jadesy, you were already into fitness, right? And this just kind of changed your perspective and fueled your fire with it.
Right. So I grew up always doing sports. I always loved sports of all kinds, always was interested in playing everything. I grew up as a competitive gymnast. I actually played varsity basketball. I sat the bench a lot, but still played varsity basketball. And then I ran track and I swam on the swimming team, and I also dove competitively, and I snowboarded competitively. So fitness has always been like a big part of my life, and I always worked out just for fun. But once she was born, and they were talking to me, and they were saying how it really affects their lungs and their digestive system, I turned to my husband and I said, "Oh my goodness, we need to make sure that we're doing everything in our power to teach this child how to be physically fit for her lungs." So it's just like she doesn't know anything different. That's just her lifestyle. So we both started working out a bunch, and I made sure that every single time I went on a run, I pushed her in a stroller. I've done a ton of races with her in a stroller. Like my kids, honestly, they don't know any different. They just think, well, every day you go work out. Well, duh. That's just what you do. So, and that was kind of our plan with all of that. And it just kind of just kept on carrying to more and more and more. And you know what? Let's do Spartan races as a family. And so my child, well, all my children, they actually race Spartan races with us now. I do like the more competitive ones, and they do like the kids races and stuff, and they actually get really, really mad if I go and race without them. And then it also carried over to, like, she had so many digestive problems. It was really frustrating because they kept on saying, oh, her stomach probably just will always hurt because she had this meconium ileus. And so I was like, no, that can't be it. Like, there's got to be another answer for this child. She cries all the time about her stomach hurting. And so that's when I started looking into basically eating clean and not eating processed food. And once we switched over I tried it for a couple of years and it worked fantastic for me. And so I ended up switching our whole entire family over. And within 2 months, she had not had a single stomach problem, and still to this day has not. And that was when she was 5 and she's now 10.
Wow. So when you say you switched over to eating clean, what, give us the rundown of what that looks like kind of day to day, or what that is. Yeah. Cause that's, and everybody obviously is different. And even within the CF community, every patient is different in terms of their diet and what works for them and what doesn't. But it's often, it seems that, kind of the stereotypical, prescription for a diet is not necessarily always the best thing for what people need.
Right. No, everybody's body's different. CF patients are no exception to the rule. That's my biggest thing when I'm teaching people about fitness and exercise and eating healthy, that what works for me may not work for them. That's just what worked for our child, and I was super excited to find that, because I know that there are a lot of cystic fibrosis children that do eat a lot of really, really high fats and processed foods, and they actually don't have a problem. They're great with it. This was just my experience with how my child was, and it was fantastic to find a solution to her constant stomach problems.
Yeah, for sure. So, how old is she now?
She's 10.
10. Awesome. Okay, so. My daughter Piper is 11, and she was diagnosed when she was 4. So she just missed the pre-screening cutoff in Florida, and she had so she originally tested negative when she was born as far as the sweat chloride, but then later on down the road, it actually it came back and she tested positive, and that's when she had walking pneumonia in one of her lungs after kind of a recurring, lung infection and bout of going back and forth. And they were just saying, hey, it's kid crud, this is normal. But it obviously wasn't, especially for a 4-year-old to, end up having fluid in her lungs. So that's how we ended up finding out that Piper was diagnosed. And so it's interesting how, kind of that, from the moment that happens in your life, what changes in the perspective and what you go through kind of personally, and how you cope and how you face that challenge. Like when hearing you speak earlier, is a quote that Mike Tyson said. He said, everybody's got a great plan until they get punched in the mouth. And
right.
It's like you think you have this plan and going ahead and strategy for life, but it can change drastically. And I think it's really interesting how somebody like yourself, who is, when you're faced with that kind of challenge, you're so proactive about it. And so, one question I would have is, what advice would you give to new parents who are, their child has just been diagnosed with cystic fibrosis or any other challenge like that?
I would say get involved and do your research. I feel like there are so many parents who are unsure what to do and how to handle the situation. And it's just like anything else, you have to learn. Fitness and nutrition, I always tell people it's the same thing. No matter what in life, you have to learn. It's a learned process. You've got to do your research. You can't just expect it all to be given to you. And you know what? It's funny because in the journey that everybody goes on with having these children, the doctors, they'll find out, although they are doctors and they are great doctors, they don't always know the answer, because every child is different. There's so many different types of cystic fibrosis. Just because my daughter, which I'm pretty sure that your daughter has the same 2 copies of the same genes.
Delta 508,
the
yeah.
Delta, yeah. Anyway, so just because my daughter reacts one way doesn't mean your daughter's going to react a certain way. And so it's just, going off that gut feeling about what you think and just really pushing it with the doctors and finding those specific doctors that can help you, because I don't know how many times we've taken my child into a doctor or Jadis into a doctor and they've been like, well, it's probably this. And then you take them into somebody else and they're like, oh no, this is the answer. So it's very interesting, on your journey, finding those key doctors that will help you out. So
Right.
do your research.
Yeah, for sure. And now, so you have two other, two other children that are younger siblings to Jadis.
Correct.
But they do not have cystic fibrosis.
No, I actually was terrified to have another child because I was like, I cannot give another child a death sentence. I actually felt so horrible and guilt-stricken with having done this already, even though, it wasn't my fault, I know, and it wasn't my husband's fault. We didn't know, but I just knew at that point, knowing that could happen again, I just couldn't do it. So I had to do in vitro anyways, and so we actually had the embryos tested, which was very interesting because it's supposed to be 1 in 4 embryos are supposed to have the gene or have cystic fibrosis, and none of mine did. And I had I think 19
Wow.
embryos taken out. So we knew my little boy, my little girl that came after them, that they actually do not have cystic fibrosis, nor are they carriers.
Got it. Yeah. So what has it been like for them, for their perspective as siblings to an older sister who has CF? How has that, impacted their path?
I think the good thing is they don't know any different. Just as I don't know any different having Jadis as my first child. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, that's so hard. You've got to do so much for her. This is got to be the hardest thing you've ever done. And I'm like, yeah, but I didn't know any different. She's my oldest.
Right.
So it's hilarious when my second 2 kids came along. I was like, oh wow, this is what people are talking about. They're so easy.
Yeah.
But I think it's the same thing with them though. They don't know any different. They were born into this family where their sister always has to do treatments, and that's just what has to happen. I do know that they've mentioned
Time is, and when they're
Right.
laying in a hospital bed or doing their treatments and other kids are playing and don't have to worry about that, it definitely gives them an enlightened perspective on how you value your time in life.
Oh, very true. I tell my little girl all the time, don't take life for granted. You only have one life. You have one body. And that's one of the biggest things that I think helps motivate me in my fitness journey, thinking, okay, this is my only chance at life. This is my only chance at being this age and achieving these things. And so, I've told her, especially recently, you realize that the reason where I am today is because of you. You inspired me, and you didn't even know that you did that. You inspired me to be a better person and to reach big goals and blast them away, do things that I never thought were possible, because you only have one chance at life. And I really, really hope that she remembers that and she does the same thing. She goes out and attacks everything. She's got a great outlook in life. From the time she was just teeny, she notices all the little tiny details. She's very compassionate towards other people's feelings. She just has these amazing eyes and outlook on life. So, and I think that's partly because of everything that she goes through.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it's so interesting to hear you talk about it that way, because that's very much how I feel about Piper. It's I tell her, it's amazing because, everything that we're doing with the Crossing for a Cure and Piper's Angels Foundation, it as heartbreaking as it is that she has CF, it was born out of an opportunity to make the most out of something that, could otherwise be looked at as very, negative. And, she doesn't have to actually do anything. She's just being herself. And that enough, for me personally, I just look at it well, if I just keep lifting her up and empowering her, her light will shine far and wide enough that everybody will, anybody who's involved, at least and aware of the organization or, the impact is, can be very proud of it. So.
Correct. Yeah. It's basically, this is your journey in life. Make it a purposeful one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. My daughter has no idea the people that she's impacting, but she is making such a huge impact by just being herself too. So I'm very, very excited for her to go and be involved in Crossing for the Cure. As with my husband and I, oh my goodness, like what a fantastic opportunity. I am more than amazed that this even happens, and so excited to take on the challenge.
So how?
So like, it took me about 2 seconds of hearing what this was to be like, yep, I'm in.
Well, that's the attitude you need to paddle across the ocean. I can tell you that. So that's awesome. So how did you initially hear about the crossing?
So Hannah Eden and her husband Paulo came and filmed videos with me. We filmed for Nordic Track, and we filmed iFit videos, and they are the big wigs. I'm just one of the little peons on stage. Anyways, they came in and they filmed us up, and Hannah was doing a workout, and in the middle of the video, she says to me, why are you here today exercising? Why do you work out? And I said, because fitness is going to save my daughter's life one day. And she said, what? And I said, I have a daughter with cystic fibrosis, and I know that fitness is going to save her life one day. And she about started crying, like right on stage. And I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't mean to make somebody cry, because I had no idea about the connection there. And so later on, she comes off stage and she goes, Julie, I need to talk to you. I have this amazing thing I got to tell you about. So later on backstage, she told me about you and your daughter and the amazing journey that you guys have been on, and the Crossing for the Cure. And she goes, I'm going to do a team. Will you be on my team? And I was like, oh my goodness, this is like an amazing dream for me. This is like the ultimate challenge. I'm always looking for big physical challenges, and to be able to do that and bring awareness to cystic fibrosis and raise money for it, oh my goodness, it's amazing. And the coolest thing is too, is what a great thing, because my daughter absolutely loves paddleboarding and surfing and the ocean. Like, it's her favorite things in the whole world, which is kind of sexy. We live in Utah where there isn't an ocean for surfing. But that's what she loves. And so the whole thing just fits in perfectly. And I'm forever thankful to Hannah and Paulo for telling me about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they have been great supporters, and we're huge fans. My wife Liz and I, we love them, and they have been just so enthusiastic and supportive. I love that. I love that is the connection through fitness and through Hannah and Paulo. That just really warms my heart up.
Yeah, Julie is hitting like every point that you have tried to hit with creating this event.
Yeah,
really.
It's really like I just feel, I feel like such a kindred spirit to you.
Oh yes.
in so many ways, and I grew up when I was reading your bio, it reminded me just kind of my upbringing, and I played a lot of different sports and was very athletic in a lot of different ways, and so by the time I got into my 20s, and when Piper was born, and it was really, that was one of my first questions when she was diagnosed and we went to her first CF clinic visit. It was like, hey, okay, well, obviously, doing anything that could exercise her lungs is probably going to be really beneficial, but what is the best? Like, is there any science behind, is dancing better versus swimming versus running versus playing soccer? Like, what is it, because I was thinking very like analytically, like, should she be like in a sport like basketball where you're like sprinting back and forth, or should it be, is it like, is long distance kind of like working the lungs for a longer enduring period of time? Is that better? Or like, what is it? And they're like, well, anything to exercise her lungs. But it's really interesting. There's been, medical journals published about the connection between saltwater activities and cystic fibrosis, and how the salt in the air and the sodium chloride, as you know, helps provide better airway clearance and hydrates the liner of the lungs and can prevent lung infections and, keep her lungs healthy. And I was sitting there and I was just like, that was the last thing I ever expected to hear. And of course, we're very fortunate because living in Florida, I was like, oh my gosh, this is good news. And really at that time, after she had been diagnosed and kind of, her future had been tossed kind of into in a zone, a blanket of uncertainty, having that little bit of control back where it was like, wow, I could do something about that. And at the time I didn't paddleboard or surf, so I just started taking her out on a paddleboard, and she would tell these awesome stories and fairy tale adventures of mermaids and princesses, and she was just like, her imagination would run wild sitting on the front of the board, and we would see manatees and stingrays and turtles, and I just, so those are some of the most cherished moments I have of when she was a child. And it was just such a gift to me that the ocean was kind of this like outdoor, fun therapy that, could be beneficial. I would love to, especially after tonight, after the show, to talk with you more about our Salt Supply program and our Forever Stoked Scholarship, because we just started issuing our scholarships, and we sent 3 kids down to CF Kids at different times, obviously, but down to Costa Rica in December to go to a full week-long surf camp at Witches Rock. And let me tell you, the feedback about, we had all the way from a 5-year-old boy up to a 15-year-old girl, and the feedback from the parents and the CFers were just like, it was so positive. And just to see the smiles on their faces, and really the goal there is, how do we create a lifelong sustainable path for people and kids like Jadesy with cystic fibrosis to participate in surfing and paddling and saltwater activities? Because it's one thing to go out to the beach for a day, but it's another thing to empower a child, as coming from an athletic background. When you empower a child with a skill set, like, for example, I always use, I'm so glad you're a snowboarder, because I'm from Florida where it's flat, right? But I've been to Utah many times to go get on a mountain. And I went for a period of like 5 years in a row, and when I was younger, and those 5 years taught me, like, for 1 week at a time. So 5 weeks out of my life, it gave me the proficiency to learn how to snowboard. And
Right.
I look at surfing the same way. Like, it's just a matter of being in the right place, at the right time, in the right conditions, with the right instruction in a safe environment, and you're going to create good memories, and you're also going to learn something that is going to stick with you for the rest of your life.
Correct. You know what? That is like an amazing experience for those kids. I just know in itself, because JC decided to do her Make-A-Wish trip to Hawaii because she wanted to swim with a dolphin, she wanted to see sea turtles, and she wanted to surf. And so she still, to this day, she did it when she was 8 years old, and she still, every single day, when could we go back to Hawaii and surf? When could we go back and surf? And she picked up amazingly fast, just having athletic backgrounds, because I encourage her to do as many sports as possible to stay active. But it's hilarious because the instructor, he was like, oh my goodness, she's talented. She should surf. You should get her into like surf lessons all the time. I'm like, not exactly coastal, but so, no, that's kind of it. But you know what? A lot of people don't realize. I'm sure because you live in Florida, you probably know that it does help Piper, the salt. But we see it more as far as we aren't around the salt water like that all the time. We get to the ocean maybe once a year, maybe twice. But every time we bring her to the ocean, the whole first day that she is there in that air, her nose will just run, and like she'll kind of feel congested or whatever. And then the next few days we're there, she's like, I can breathe so good. My body feels so amazing. Like, she can feel such a difference. So that salt air is amazing, more than like people will ever know. Amazing for them.
I'm really glad you said that. And we have some really amazing testimonials of families that have had that same experience. And so I definitely, we're getting ready to land the plane here with the show, because we've only got a few minutes left, and the time has flown by, of course, because you bring so much positive energy. We would love to have you back on the show at some point down the road. And of course, let's connect to, after the show tonight, so we can talk more about, getting Jadesy, getting her involved with the Salt Supply program. And of course, we'll see you in June for sure for the crossing.
I can't wait to meet you, Julie. I'm excited.
I can't wait to meet you guys. And there's like a connection like this. Oh my goodness, I could talk to you guys for hours.
And your husband's doing it too, correct?
Yeah, well, he's not going to actually paddle board this year. He's
Okay.
going to be on the support boat for me this year, but he is going to do it next year.
Awesome. I hear a future crosser in Jadesy too.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, she bawled her head off when I told her she couldn't do it this year.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's got a few years. Got a few years.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we'll definitely get her. We'll get her going on paddling and get her in the loop there. So, thank you so much again, Julie. It's been amazing talking to you, and what an inspiring story of how you've empowered your daughter with CF and taken this diagnosis and made the most of a positive path with it, which is, you know, we talk about promoting positive on the show, and people just need to hear more stories like yours, you know, and really finding platforms for you to share that story, because it is so powerful, is really vital to, you know, the cultural narrative of cystic fibrosis, to the cultural narrative of, you know, our country and the global community. It's really important. So we're just so excited to have you on the show and share your story.
Oh, it was my pleasure. It was so much fun talking to you guys.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Julie, and we will talk to you very soon.
Hi, Julie.
Great, sounds good. Bye, we'll talk to you later.
Bye. Wow.
Awesome.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
It's just so good. You know, like, I just, every time we end this show, I think, like, you
It's
can't.
just so different every time. You know,
Yeah.
you just get a different angle on inspiration and get a different view into the struggles and the accomplishments and all these great things that people are going through and overcoming.
Yeah.
It's what the show's all about.
It is. Well, thank you all for tuning in and joining us on another week of the Epic Love Radio Show, where we're sharing inspiring stories of love through action. And keep promoting the positive out there. Send us any suggestions for inspiring stories and people you come across out there in the world. Send us your epic love letters, and we will see you next week.
Good night.